Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County Sunday worship service. I'm Todd Johnson, your newly elected Vice President of the Board of Trustees.
I am here, I am whole as
If you are new to UCDC, we welcome you. Please also check in on the website so that we have a way to keep in touch with you. If you haven't done so already, please rename yourself in Zoom to reflect who you are. I also want to remind you that you can follow the service with closed captioning. Look for the CC symbol or audio transcript button to enable closed captioning. We will also have a virtual coffee hour following the service. Please feel free to stay with us and chat with your fellow congregants and friends. This Sunday, members of Interweave, with support from Chrissy Bush-Shager, our Director of Religious Education, and guidance from Reverend Peter, are honored to present a celebration of Pride service, using music, readings, and personal reflections to share celebrations of what Pride represents to us. Today's service includes technical support from Craig Harris. Pride is and always has been an act of resistance against police brutality, against implicit and explicit heteronormative socialization, stigma, and hatred. Pride is an act of inclusivity and solidarity, bringing together the diverse spectrum of people that represent the LGBTQIA+ community, sometimes successfully, sometimes with challenges, in hopes that we can stand with other marginalized communities to help defeat social injustice, brutality, stigma, and hatred. Pride is also a state of being, a sense of self-respect derived from the quality of being one's true, authentic self. Today we celebrate Pride, and we begin our worship service by reciting our covenant together. Enriched by our differences and joined together in our search for meaning, we covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart. We'll now have our chalice lighting performed by Kate Gordon, Chris Hagendorf, Gabby Sachs, and Sharon Fitchthorn.
And Barbara. When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak. It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Audre Lorde. We got us. Now let us begin. Oh, please join us now as we sing our opening hymn, How Can Anyone?
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than
they put you down for being left-handed, let alone gay. Well, the local hairdresser headed the list drawn up by the townsfolk, oh, but they missed a hell of a lot of people along the way. There was the lifeguard at the swimming pool, the lady who taught me Sunday school, a doctor and a butcher and a dentist occasionally. There was the football coach and a teacher or two. The matron at the hospital knew that half her nurses were, and then there was me. Well, I was 14 when I realized that what I felt when I looked in the eyes of the fourth form captain was love at first sight. She was tall and dark and her eyes were blue, and when I looked at her I knew that I was one of them, and it wasn't right. I'd follow her around and I'd catch her bus, even though she didn't live anywhere near us. I just wanted to be with her all the time. Of course she didn't know the way I felt. She didn't know that every night I knelt beside my bed and prayed she could be mine. Meanwhile, there was the lifeguard at the swimming pool, the lady who taught me Sunday school, a doctor and a butcher and a dentist occasionally. There was the football coach and a teacher or two. The matron at the hospital knew that half her nurses were, and then there was me. Years went by and we both left school. I came to the city, she married some fool from our hometown, settled down and had a kid. And I went with men, but my thoughts returned to the women I'd known, and soon I learned I'd have to either explode or raise the lid. So I broke out instead of breaking down, and now when I think of that country town, I smile when I think of the things I didn't know then. Like what I could tell the clergyman's wife about the other side of a husband's life, and what he really means when he says amen. There was the lifeguard at the swimming pool, the lady who taught me Sunday school, a doctor and a butcher and a dentist occasionally. There was the football coach and a teacher or two. The matron at the hospital knew that half her nurses were, and then there was me. There was the lifeguard at the swimming pool, the lady who taught me Sunday school. And what about the sergeant's son and the florist's assistant? I reckon she's one. And that bloke next door to the girl next door to the fella who owned the hardware store. For sure. And that woman on the corner and the man at the zoo. And you out there, hey, what about you?
Now's the time in our service where we can share the joys and sorrows of our lives. If you would like to use the chat function to type what's lifting you up, what's weighing you down, or what's giving you hope. For all the joys and sorrows in our lives, those expressed here today and those we hold in our hearts, we say, blessed be. Amen. Ashe.
Love is patient. Love is kind. It bears all things, believes all things, it hopes all things, endures all things.
Good morning, everyone. I bet you've seen a lot of rainbow flags this month. And of course, if you come to UUCDC in person, at that time when we can do that again, you will see a rainbow flag sculpture by our sign. It's been there for a long time. Maybe you even have a rainbow flag at home. I'm going to tell you a little bit about rainbow flag today. The first rainbow flag was created by Gilbert Baker and Harvey Milk in 1978 for the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Parade. And the colors on the flag were meant to symbolize the diversity and unity of the gay and lesbian community. The flag was an important symbol because gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer people have faced hatred and discrimination in our country. The flag is a bright and visible declaration of LGBTQ pride and a banner under which we can march for justice and equal rights. Later in 1994, Gilbert Baker designed another rainbow flag. This one was for a parade in New York City. It was a mile long. That's a really big flag. The people who were holding the front of the flag couldn't even see the people who were holding the back of the flag. After that, the rainbow flag was used as a symbol for rights and freedom for LGBTQ people all over the world. In fact, here at UUCDC in the early 2000s, our church decided to show support for LGBTQ people by putting a rainbow flag next to our sign out front. Unfortunately, one night in November of 2006, someone stole our rainbow flag and burned it. That was a mean thing to do and a scary time for the LGBTQ people in our community. Mike Mitchell offered to create an indestructible rainbow flag sculpture out of metal for UUCDC. It was dedicated in April of 2007, just 5 months after the cloth flag had been destroyed. And that's the one you see in front of our building today. The rainbow flag has changed many times over the years. In 2007, Amber Hicks designed a new pride flag in Philadelphia. Looks like this, with a black stripe and a brown stripe at the top of the flag. This flag reminds us of the importance of people of color in queer communities and how aspects of our identities intersect. None of us is just one thing. The next year, in 2018, Daniel Kesar designed a rainbow flag with a chevron. That's this pointy thing, it's called a chevron. That included the black and the brown, as well as pink, white, and blue, which are the colors of the trans flag, in order to make the rainbow flag more explicitly inclusive of trans people. I think it is super cool that the rainbow flag has changed over the years. And each time it has changed to be more inclusive. I hope that when you see a rainbow flag, you'll think about the ways that we can all work to be more inclusive to our gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, and queer friends. And I hope that whether you're a part of the LGBT community or not, those bright colors will fill you with joy and hope and pride. Thank you for listening to my story today. Jim, you're muted.
I'm muted. And I also am not spotlighted, but I don't know how to fix that. So today is Share the Plate Sunday. It's the day on which we contribute 100% of our offering to the community partner, which this month, the month of June, is Thresholds of Delaware County. Working to prevent violence and enhance problem-solving skills, Thresholds provides incarcerated citizens in local detention facilities with education to develop a more positive self-image and better decision-making skills. Please give generously to support this organization, Thresholds of Delaware County, using your smartphone to donate, following the instructions on the screen.
need for greed or hunger. Community of all. He has been called the people, sharing all the world. Ooh, you may say I'm a dreamer. Ooh, but I'm not the only one. Ooh, I hope someday you'll join us. Ooh, and the world will be as
Our reading this morning comes to us from the Russian violinist Artem Kolosov. Kolosov, 27 years old, grew up in Russia, where the gay propaganda law prohibits the distribution of information to minors that suggests homosexuality could be considered normal. He immigrated to the United States, studied in Chicago, and now lives in California with his husband. Kolosov writes, I'd like to say that LGBT people don't want to yell about themselves on every corner. We don't come out for heterosexual people to know. We don't come out for religious people to know. We don't come out for the ones who hate us to know. We shout and make as much noise as possible just so other people like us who are scared and cannot be themselves would know that they are not a mistake and they are not alone. We come out because we want to show other LGBT people that we too can live a normal life and we too can be loved and accepted. And also, we come out because we want to show others that we are people just like them. We're engineers, doctors, teachers, violinists, sons and daughters, and most of all, we're humans. The words of Artem Kolosov.
Got a hand on the door, never know where it might lead. No screwed up before, but now I'm thinking what it might be. When you're right by my side, I don't ever have to worry. Tell me, baby, what did we start? Think of what we might see. The city's got a million lights out, I can see your eyes ignite. Wow, tell me that you wanna go right now. Why are we hesitating? The city has a million lights, and I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. The city's got a million lights, and I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. And I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. Oh, if I've any say so, maybe I'll be enough. Tell me, baby, where should we go? When you're right by my side, I don't wanna say come over. Tell me, baby, now that we're home, leaving days are over. The city's got a million lights out, I can see your eyes ignite. Wow, tell me that you wanna go right now. Why are we hesitating? The city has a million lights, and I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. city's got a million lights, and I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. And I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. Wake up, I don't really wanna wake up. I'm living a dream and I don't wanna let it go. Yeah, said wake up, I don't really wanna wake up. Said I'm living the dream and I don't wanna lose control. Oh yeah, wake up, I don't really wanna wake up. Oh, this it feels exactly how you dreamt it up. Oh, I know that love is love. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. And I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. I know that love is love. And I never believed before now. Maybe tonight we'll find out. Don't wanna leave, can't get enough. I know that love is love.
In April 2020, Gabby and I decided that we were going to get married. So we made arrangements to have our wedding at Tyler Arboretum. Well, you all know what was happening in April of 2020. So obviously our marriage plans were curtailed. The Arboretum canceled all of its events. And on the day that we were planning to go to the media courthouse to apply for our marriage license, the courthouse shut down. When all of this happened, we decided that it really didn't matter to us. We had been living together so long without having any official piece of paper that the paper really wasn't all that important. What did it matter? Fast forward to August of 2020, when we found out that the courthouse was going to offer virtual marriage license appointments, or if you were really healthy, you could sign up for an appointment to go to the courthouse in person and get your marriage license. So we chose option 2, and on the day that we started to get ready to go to the courthouse, I was really surprised to find myself getting excited about finally having that official piece of paper that I told myself I didn't really care about. So we walked down to the courthouse and went through the health screening and through the security screening and up the stairs to the marriage license office. When we opened the door of the office, we were greeted by people with masked smiles and lots of words of congratulations for our impending marriage, and that made us feel wonderful. When we left the office and were coming back down the stairs, I was really proud to be a gay woman who was finally marrying the woman that she wanted to live with for the rest of her life. And even though I thought it wasn't going to mean anything to me, I was really surprised at how much that little piece of paper meant to me in the end.
I had just come out of the closet and just moved to Philadelphia. Living by myself in Center City was a new and kind of frightening adventure. I didn't know how I was going to live the rest of my life as a gay man. I took a bold step and I joined the Philadelphia Gay Men's Chorus. It was rather frightening even to go to the rehearsals the first time. But I went and I practiced the songs. It came time for the concert. I stood on the stage in my tuxedo with 100 other gay men. I sang songs about being gay, about living a gay life, about how to be with other men, about stepping out in faith. And I sang my heart out. That night, in that concert, it was one of the proudest moments of my life. I knew that I was going to make it. I was absolutely filled with pride. I'll never forget that moment.
There was nothing like the experience of going to lesbian music festivals, whether it was CAMFest, Memorial Day weekend, or Sister Space Labor Day weekend. My first festival experience, I was so happy to be surrounded by hundreds of lesbians with no men on the land except to clean the porta janes before dawn. At my first festival, I was introduced to lesbian musicians, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the music throughout my festival experiences. It was always sad and a bit of a culture shock to leave the land at the end of the weekend.
One of my favorite Pride memories is of the first Pride event I ever attended, the Millennium March on Washington in March of 2000. And in hindsight, the event had some challenges. It wasn't as inclusive as it could have been. It had some financial difficulties. But at the time, we didn't know any of that. And for me, it was special because it was the very first Pride event I'd ever attended. And I was with my people. It was the first time I felt part of a large, inclusive community. Sure, there were protesters. There were a few protesters along the march route. But it was us, and that was really special to me. I had attended marches in Washington in the 80s and 90s for women's choice rallies, right to choose events. But this was the first time it was just us. It was just my lesbian and gay friends. I drove from Westchester, where I lived at the time, to Harrisburg, picked up a friend there. We drove down to DC, and you can't imagine the technology from 2000, of course, but it was a bit of a challenge to meet up with everybody. We didn't have maps and cell phones and things like that. But it was the first time we were together, 200,000 of us, 400,000 of us, however many there were, at that large event. And that was just glorious. That's when I sort of knew what a Pride Day and a Pride event meant.
Kate and I had been dating only for a few months when she asked me to go to a local women's music festival over the Memorial Day weekend. 4 days of camping. Woohoo! So we went, and it was an eye-opening experience. It was just a joy to see hundreds and hundreds of women, all different shapes and sizes and colors. And they were all just like me. There's nothing wrong with me. I am who I am. So we had a great time. The music was fabulous. Everyone was so lovely, and it was just a fabulous time. So of course, it rained the whole weekend and the tent leaked, but that is a story for another day.
This year, I joined my company's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The committee is responsible for planning and executing diversity awareness events, as well as promoting and identifying new ways to drive diversity and inclusion within our workplace. This June, we're celebrating Pride Month by making a donation to the AIDS Memorial Quilt. We are actually contributing a piece of the quilt that will be added. Employees will create the quilt by selecting predefined words that represent pride to them, or they can identify their own word that corresponds to pride for them. And these words will all be gathered together into a word cloud that will be colorized in the colors of the rainbow flag and then embossed onto the piece of fabric that we are donating to be added to the quilt. This has made me very proud, and I'm really looking forward to the events that we'll sponsor for next Pride.
Shortly after Jen and I started dating, we went on a lesbian cruise together to Alaska with Olivia Cruise Lines. And this was not my first cruise, it was not Jen's first cruise, but it was our first vacation together, and it was our first lesbian cruise. And that first night on board the ship, it just felt so safe, so comfortable, so relaxed. Jen and I were able to hold hands wherever we went without worrying about what other people were thinking or whether we were safe in doing that. And we met lots of people. We made new friends that we still occasionally contact and are friends with through Facebook. There were lesbian performers. There were
musicians and comedians, and we met Del Martin and Phyllis Lyons, who are pioneers in the gay rights movement. They started Sisters of Bilitis in the 50s, and they were on the ship, and there was a moment where Jen and I were with them in an elevator, and we were just totally starstruck. It was just this wonderful moment and time of community and comfort and safety, and just feeling like we could be completely and totally ourselves for that week. And that's one of my pride memories.
When the kids were smaller, we would take them to Provincetown on the Cape for Family Week. It's a national celebration for kids who have families that are same sex. It was really great to see our boys socializing, playing games with children whose families reflected their own stories. That made me feel pride.
On June 26, 2015, I was at the hair salon getting a haircut. And my stylist, Tamra, must have gotten a news alert on her phone. And she glanced over very quickly, and next thing I know, she screams out, "Gay marriage!" And everybody in the salon erupts in applause and clapping. And she comes over and hugs me, and I realized that at this point, the Supreme Court had legalized gay marriage in all 50 states. Now, Chrissy and I had already been married for 12 years at this point, but this made our marriage legal in the United States, not just in Canada where we were married. So this was really exciting. And I remember reaching for my phone and picking it up and texting Chrissy and saying 2 words. I just said, "gay marriage." And I was so excited. And I came home from my haircut, and next thing I know, Chrissy had told me that Reverend Peter had contacted her to ask if we wanted to be interviewed for the Delco Times. So we had said yes to that, and before I knew what was going on, the kids were having a play date in the backyard, and a reporter and a camera person showed up to our house. We were interviewed for the newspaper. We had a video recorded. The photographer took photos inside and outside, pictures of our rings, pictures of our wedding album, pictures of the 4 of us, pictures of the 2 of us. And they wrote this wonderful article, and that was in the paper, and there was a video that accompanied it as well. And it was such a wonderful feeling of joy and excitement, and most of all, pride.
Please join us from the comfort of your own home. Aoife, you're covering up my flag shirt. Singing our closing hymn, Answering the Call of Love.
Of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as
Here we go. Let us join together in extinguishing our chalices with the words on the screen. Although we now extinguish our chalice flame, may we hold its warmth in our hearts in all the days ahead. I don't know that they heard me, but.
Yeah.
In the spirit.
We just want to thank everyone who had a speaking role in today's service. Todd Johnson, Chris Hagendorf, and Kate Gordon, Jim Scroggs, Rob Sartain, Gabby Sachs, and Chrissy Bushhager. Thanks also, Chrissy, for sharing that informational and amazing story with us. Thanks to David Johnson, Barb Ray, Dean Reichel, Jen Goldberg, and others who were already mentioned above for making slideshows or video vignettes, or for selecting or performing the music for this service. Special thanks goes out to Jen for creating the awesome video from our vignettes, and to Craig Harris for his talented tech management today. And finally, we'd like to thank Reverend Peter for his patience and support throughout all of the planning process. We'll be ending today's service with our benediction, but I wanted to remind you beforehand that you are invited to our virtual coffee hour immediately after the service, and bring your own coffee and come and join us. The benediction is going to be a little bit different today. We ask that you stay muted and join us in a responsive reading by responding with the words, "May we live the spirit of pride."
May we live the spirit of pride by Elizabeth Ketchum. The edge of a rainbow pride flag close up, with gratitude for the freedom to be our true authentic selves.
May we live the spirit of pride.
With the courage that comes from challenging fear.
May we live the spirit of pride.
With sorrow for those who could not be here with us today, and in honor of those who died of AIDS or who lost their lives.
May we live the spirit of pride.
With grief for those whose pain was unbearable and who left us too soon.
May we live the spirit of pride.
Looking ahead to the justice still withheld.
May we live the spirit of pride.
With the confidence that a sense of community banishes isolation and loneliness.
May we live the spirit of pride.
With the rainbow flag flying high, a sense of beloved community among us, and the joy that comes from making new connections.
May we live the spirit of pride.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you.